A century ago, cars from Europe began driving into the world. At that time, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Volkswagen relied on their technological and brand advantages to dominate the global automobile market for nearly 100 years. But today, China's new energy vehicles are entering the global market at an astonishing pace of innovation. And this change has thrown the entire European auto industry into panic. Because whether in terms of technology or user experience, Chinese brands are now comprehensively surpassing traditional car manufacturers from Europe, Japan, and South Korea. As a result, European and American automakers are facing rapidly shrinking market shares, the shutdown of traditional production lines, and even the risk of hundreds of thousands of European workers losing their jobs. In such a situation, they can only try to suppress Chinese electric vehicles through sanctions. But can this really stop the development of China's electric vehicles? And why have Chinese-made electric vehicles been able to win global recognition in such a short period of time? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Against the backdrop of climate change and the fossil fuel crisis, major global economies have all elevated new energy to a strategic priority. As early as 2009, the Obama administration launched the Clean Energy Plan, aiming to reduce dependence on traditional energy sources. In 2010, Germany officially initiated its energy transition, determined to gradually replace highly polluting coal with wind and solar power. Around the same time, European countries such as Norway and the Netherlands also announced timetables for phasing out fuel-powered cars, pushing the automotive industry toward a zero-emission future. In this wave of technological revolution, China saw an unprecedented historical opportunity, which was new energy. As far as I know, the first generation of truly domestic new energy vehicles in China emerged around 2009 to 2010. In that year, China's annual production of new energy vehicles was less than 5,000 units, hardly even making a mark in the market. At that time, the Financial Times published an article asserting that even if China spent 20 years, it might still be unable to produce a truly meaningful electric vehicle. The Wall Street Journal went even further, mocking that even if China really manages to build one, no one would want to buy it. In their eyes, China was merely a factory working for others, never a leader capable of driving industry transformation. But facts soon proved that their judgment was wrong. To promote the development of new energy vehicles, China began introducing a series of incentive policies starting in 2012. From the initial direct purchase subsidies to the 10 cities, 1,000 vehicles demonstration program, and later the dual credit system, China gradually built a systematic and long-term policy framework. Driven by both policy and market forces, new energy vehicles in China quickly became part of everyday life within just a few years. More and more people moved from initial hesitation and doubt to gradually accepting them. And today, electric vehicles have become one of the mainstream models on Chinese roads. For example, in 2024, China's annual production of new energy vehicles surpassed 13 million units, accounting for about 70% of global output. In both production and sales, China has ranked first in the world for 10 consecutive years. After achieving a breakthrough in the domestic market, Chinese automakers began to set their sights on the broader global market, with Europe undoubtedly being one of their most important targets. As far as I know, China's entry into the European new energy vehicle market began around 2020. That year, brands such as BYD, SAIC-MG, and NIO started testing the waters in countries like Norway, the Netherlands, and Germany, with the first batch of pure electric vehicles arriving at European ports. In 2020, Chinese-made new energy vehicles accounted for only 0.4% of new registrations in Europe. But by 2024, sales of Chinese electric vehicles in Europe had reached 650,000 units. In just 4 years, Chinese brands broke through the barriers and monopolies long held by traditional European carmakers in their own markets. Of course, China's choice to target the European market was not a coincidence. Since 2019, Europe has successively introduced the Green Deal and the 2035 Fuel Ban Plan, aiming to achieve zero emissions for new cars by 2035. The resulting purchase subsidies, carbon credit policies, and investments in electric infrastructure have made Europe one of the regions with the highest EV penetration in the world. In this environment, Chinese brands such as BYD, Geely, NIO, and Li Auto have rapidly expanded their sales networks across Europe. Among them, BYD has grown into the world's largest new energy vehicle manufacturer. By July 2025, BYD's new car registrations in Europe reached 13,500 units, surpassing Tesla's 8,800 units for the first time. You might be wondering, why have Chinese electric vehicles become so popular in Europe? In fact, after the initial skepticism and defensiveness, many people in Europe have gradually begun to accept and even grow fond of Chinese new energy vehicles. Over the past decade, Chinese EV companies have made remarkable breakthroughs in battery technology, electronic control systems, and intelligent features. Take BYD's Blade battery as an example. It offers high energy density and excellent safety performance, and has been recognized by multiple European institutions as an industry leader. At the same time, Chinese brands are generally priced 20% to 30% lower than equivalent European models. A midsize pure electric SUV made in China sells for around 35,000 euros in Europe, while similar German or French models usually start at over 50,000 euros. For many European consumers, this price gap is undeniably appealing. Although early Chinese electric cars were often seen as low-cost alternatives, in recent years their design aesthetics and sense of technology have improved significantly. Brands like NIO with its minimalist interior, XPeng with its intelligent driving system, and Zeekr from Geely with its sporty design have become increasingly aligned with the tastes of young European consumers. In areas such as smart interaction, voice control, and automated parking, Chinese brands have even surpassed traditional European luxury car makers. As the Financial Times reported in 2024, Chinese electric vehicles are redefining how Europeans imagine the future of mobility. However, the rapid rise of Chinese EVs has also triggered deep concern within Europe's automotive industry. European manufacturers, together with the United States, have begun launching a series of sanctions against Chinese electric vehicles. In October 2023, the European Commission officially launched an anti-subsidy investigation into Chinese electric vehicles. After 9 months of review, the EU began imposing provisional tariffs in July 2024, adding extra duties ranging from 17.4% to 37.6% on Chinese-made electric cars. Combined with the existing 10% import tariff, this meant that a car produced in China and priced at 30,000 euros would cost about 8,000 euros more once it entered the European market. By October 2024, the EU made these tariffs official as a long-term measure lasting 5 years, with rates adjusted to between 17% and 35.3%. This became one of the most stringent automotive trade restrictions Europe had introduced in recent years. In early 2025, under the Foreign Subsidies Regulation, the EU also launched an investigation into BYD's newly built factory in Hungary, questioning whether it had received non-market financial support. However, this series of policies and tariff measures has done little to slow the advance of Chinese new energy vehicles in the European market. According to available data, in the first 8 months of this year, China exported about 430,000 new energy vehicles to Europe, a year-on-year increase of 74%. Among them, BYD ranked first with more than 180,000 exports, becoming the most popular Chinese brand among European consumers, followed closely by SAIC Motor with around 170,000 exports. Notably, Belgium became the largest importer of Chinese new energy vehicles in Europe, with sales exceeding 200,000 units, followed by the United Kingdom with 130,000 units. This shows that despite Europe's attempts to curb the growth of Chinese new energy vehicles through higher tariffs and anti-subsidy investigations, these sanctions have clearly failed to achieve their intended effect. Moreover, in the face of Europe's strict sanctions, Chinese companies have begun actively establishing their own manufacturing bases in Europe. Among them, BYD is building its first European passenger car production base in Szeged, Hungary. The project was officially signed in December 2023, with a total investment of about 4 billion euros and a land area of over 300 hectares. It has been called the largest Chinese automotive investment project in Europe. The plant is scheduled to begin production in the second half of 2025, with an initial annual capacity of 150,000 vehicles, expandable to 300,000 in the future. In addition to assembling passenger cars, the facility will also produce batteries and key components, fully covering the new energy vehicle industry chain. In April 2024, Chery announced a partnership with the Spanish government to revive the Zona Franca automobile plant, which had been left idle after Nissan's withdrawal. The total investment for the project is about 400 million euros, with production scheduled to begin in 2025. The initial annual capacity is planned at 50,000 vehicles, expanding to 150,000 by 2029. In July 2025, Chang'an announced the establishment of its first European manufacturing center in Mainz, Germany, with an investment of around 2 billion euros. The factory will produce models from its new energy brand Deepel, with construction expected to start by the end of 2026 and full production beginning in 2028. The project's initial capacity will be about 100,000 vehicles per year, equipped for both battery assembly and complete vehicle exports. But as Chinese electric vehicles continue to perform strongly in the European market, the entire European automotive industry has fallen into panic. Why has this happened? In fact, as Chinese new energy vehicles have surged forward across Europe, the traditional European auto industry has been losing market share, shutting down production lines, and facing large-scale layoffs. The first to be hit were the German giants. At the end of 2024, Volkswagen announced capacity cuts across several European factories, including a 25% reduction at its pure electric plant in Zwickau, Germany, which resulted in about 3,000 workers being placed on forced rotation or temporary leave. The main reason behind this outcome is the steadily increasing market penetration of Chinese electric vehicles in Europe. In early 2025, Audi announced the closure of its electric vehicle plant in Brussels, Belgium, which had been one of the first in Europe to produce high-end pure electric models. Since the beginning of the year, roughly 3,000 employees have been laid off, and the production line was completely shut down by the end of February. Almost simultaneously, Stellantis, the parent company of Peugeot, suspended electric vehicle production lines at its plants in Naples and Turin, Italy, citing market demand being eroded by imported models. As more and more auto factories shut down, the ripple effects on the supply chain quickly followed. In 2024, German parts giants Bosch and Continental together announced layoffs exceeding 50,000 employees, with some factories shifting their focus toward Asian markets. According to data from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, in the first half of 2024, the EU's total automobile production fell by 13% year-on-year, while imports of new energy vehicles from China increased by 28% during the same period. This means that for nearly every unit of production lost in Europe, a Chinese brand has filled the gap. Today, the presence of Chinese new energy vehicles in Europe's ports, showrooms, and streets is becoming increasingly visible. For Europe's automotive industry, The rise of Chinese new energy vehicles is not just the arrival of a new competitor, but a profound test of an entire era. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.